I never imagined my father would forget my mom's birthday until I caught him in the act. It was a cold, gray morning, and the air felt thick with tension. I woke up excited, ready to make the day special. I tiptoed downstairs, heart racing, visions of balloons and cakes swirling in my mind. I had planned everything. A surprise party, friends, and all her favorite things. But when I peered into the living room, my breath caught in my throat. There he was, my dad, staring blankly at the calendar on the wall. His face looked stormy, a mix of confusion and guilt. He was supposed to be planning something, right? Something for Mom. I could see his hands trembling slightly as they gripped the edge of the table. It was like time froze, the ticking clock echoing in my ears, urging me to leap into action. "Dad?" I said softly, trying to break the spell of silence. He turned, eyes wide, panic flickering across his features. I felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken words hanging in the air. Why wasn't he remembering? My heart pounded harder. This wasn't just a forgetful moment, it felt like something darker was lurking. Mom loved her birthday. It was the one day she always glowed, the kind of sparkle in her eye that made it feel like magic was possible. But now, I could see it didn't matter to him. And that thought grabbed hold of my chest like a vice. It didn't add up. He'd never forgotten before. Not ever. The memories washed over me. Birthday cakes, laughter, hugs. This year was supposed to be special, a milestone. My stomach churned, and I felt tears prick my eyes. I fought them back. I had to know what was going on. I stepped closer, my voice almost trembling. "Do you need help, Dad?" He hesitated, his gaze darting away. The silence screamed, and I could almost taste the fear in the air. He looked smaller, somehow lost. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down into an abyss of uncertainty. I didn't understand. What was happening? The man who taught me everything, the rock of our family, was unraveling before my eyes. Suddenly, his phone buzzed violently on the table, shattering the tense atmosphere. He snatched it up, his expression changing like flicking a switch. Fear morphed into something colder, harsher. "Nothing," he blurted, stuffing the phone in his pocket. But the way he swallowed hard told a different story. Something was slipping, unraveling, and I was desperate to grab hold. There it was, under the surface, a thick fog of secrets swirling between us. My heart raced. Was it too late? Were the cracks already too deep to mend? I needed answers, but would he give them to me? His eyes flickered, pleading but distant. I sensed a truth buried beneath layers of shame. Something more than just forgetting a birthday. I took a shaky breath, my voice barely above a whisper. "Dad, what is really going on?" "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." The words hung between us like a fragile thread, poised to snap if pulled too hard. My father remained silent, his gaze drifting back to the calendar, as if it held the answers we both sought. It felt surreal, as if I were watching a scene in a movie, waiting for the protagonist to confront the villain. Only this time, there was no villain, just a man shadowed by his own turmoil. As his breathing grew heavier, memories flooded through my mind. Little moments of us together, fishing trips, homemade dinners, the sacred rituals of our family. I wanted to cling to those pieces of him, to understand why they seemed to be slipping away. But today was different. Today was marked by an unsettling stillness. Without knowing what else to do, I took a tentative step closer, my heart begging for connection. "Dad," I said again, my voice firmer this time, "please talk to me. You can't just shut me out." His shoulders sagged as if the weight of the world pressed down on him. He finally met my eyes, and the sorrow within them cut deeper than any words could. I'm trying to figure things out," he murmured, his voice shaky. "I don't want to drag you into this." But he already had. Whatever this was, it was seeping through our walls, eroding the safety of our home. "You're not dragging me into anything," I insisted, wanting so fiercely to pull him away from the dark thoughts spiraling in his mind. "I'm here because I care." In that moment, his fortress cracked. "I don't want to lose her, you know." His voice trembled, and I felt as if a cold shiver ran down my spine. "I don't know how to be the man she deserves anymore. Things aren't what they used to be." His words felt like knives slicing through the last threads of innocence I had clung to. I took a breath, trying to process my emotions. "What do you mean?" The questions slipped out, tinged with dread. I had assumed my parents' love was unshakable, a steadfast anchor in the rocky waters of life. But now, I was grappling with the realization that the storm they weathered may have fragmented them in ways I couldn't comprehend. "I've been distant," he admitted, shame radiating from him. "I feel like I'm losing touch with everything, my work, my marriage, even with you." He paused, swallowing hard, his vulnerability laid bare. "When she asked me the other day if we could plan something special for her birthday, I just froze. I didn't know how to respond. I'm scared, and I know that's not an excuse." For a brief instant, I saw a flicker of the man who had once stood tall, celebrated each holiday with full fervor, and embraced all the warmth life had to offer. But now, he was caught in a spiral that threatened to bring us all down. A knot formed in my throat, and I desperately wanted to guide him back, to remind him of the man he used to be. The silence stretched between us, mingling with the sound of my heart thudding against my chest. Just when I thought I had to say something profound to pull us both back from the edge of despair, a small voice broke that silence. "Is it true, Dad?" The words were soft yet trembling, echoing from the hallway. It was my younger sister, Mara, her innocent eyes wide with concern, having watched our exchange. "Are you going to forget Mom's birthday?" My heart sank further. The very question I had been grappling with now hung in the air, laden with the weight of her innocence. I glanced at Dad, fear tightening my chest. He looked like a wounded animal, trapped between a fight and a flight instinct. "No, I will not forget," he replied, a firmness slipping back into his voice. Yet his certainty felt like a thin veneer. His eyes betrayed the reality he faced internally, a storm still raging beneath the surface. Mara stepped forward, stretching her small hand toward him, a tactful offering of support. "We can plan it together," she said earnestly. "Can we? Please?" Her voice was filled with a simple hope that burned fiercely against the backdrop of adult dilemmas. Maybe, just maybe, this bond could illuminate the darkness surrounding us. But even in that flicker of light, I sensed a deeper, darker truth. "Mara," I whispered, attempting to shield her from the brewing turmoil. "It's more complicated than that." Just then, Dad's phone buzzed again, drawing his attention away from the tender moment unfolding. His expression shifted, tension returning. "I need to step outside for a moment," he said, avoiding our gazes and slipping away toward the door. As he exited, the air grew heavy with an indefinable loss. I exchanged glances with Mara, her confusion mirroring my own distress. Something in my gut told me that whatever was happening was spiraling beyond our control. The quiet of the house settled around us like a cloak, and I found myself longing for answers in the man my father used to be. But with every unanswered question, the grip of fear tightened, a fear that the cracks in our family were widening, that any semblance of joy would soon fade into shadows. And just like that, a rift had opened that I couldn't bridge. I felt the weight of everything shifting beneath my feet, and with a final glance at the door my father had just passed through, I whispered, "What if we're losing him?" The silence that followed felt louder than ever, filled with the haunting thought that perhaps we might be losing something even more precious than a birthday. The house was frozen in a stillness that felt suffocating, a reminder of the fragile state of our family. Mara glanced up at me with wide, unblinking eyes, her youthful innocence struggling to process the weight of our predicament. "Is Dad going to be okay?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking louder might somehow shatter the fragile facade we all wore. I raked a hand through my hair, anxiety clawing at my insides. I wished I had the right words to ease her worries, to paint a picture of stability and certainty. I don't know, sweetheart. But we need to be here for him. He needs us, I replied, though even as I spoke, doubt clung to my resolve like a shadow. Mara nodded, but I could see the tremor in her little hands, the fidgeting that belied her composure. It was unsettling to witness such fear in someone so young. I reached out, wrapping my arm around her shoulder, desperately hoping that my presence could block out the encroaching darkness. As she leaned against me, I could feel the heat rising from her small frame, a warmth that sparked a momentary flicker of hope in the bleakness. I had to believe that, together, we could navigate this churning sea of uncertainty. Then I noticed Mara's gaze shift, her attention caught by the family photo hanging haphazardly near the hallway. It had been taken 2 years ago, just before everything started unraveling. The vibrant smiles caught in that moment, my mother's dimples dancing in delight, my dad's arms wrapped protectively around us, felt like a different lifetime. Can we do something special for Mom? Something that makes her smile? Mara's eyes glimmered with the kind of determination that children possess, a belief that the world could always be made better with simple gestures of love. Of course. We can plan something, I said, though uncertainty swirled in my gut. Maybe we can cook her favorite meal, bring her flowers, anything she'd love. Encouraged by my answer, Mara hopped off the couch, rushing toward the kitchen with excitement to find supplies, but I remained rooted in place, grappling with a profound realization. It felt like an ink blot of worry. Cooking in our current emotional state could lead to disaster, but her enthusiasm shone as a beacon of innocence and unconditional love. I wandered into the kitchen, allowing the familiar sense of spices and fresh produce wrap around me like a comforting embrace. It felt so normal amidst the storm threatening to engulf us, yet I couldn't shake off the gnawing anxiety about Dad and the slipping grasp on our family unit. My heart thudded uneasily as I contemplated the chasm that was widening, a concern about what would happen if he didn't return to us soon. Just as I began gathering ingredients, the sharp sound of Dad's phone buzzing again cut through the air, echoing in the quiet kitchen. I glanced at the device still resting on the coffee table, an unwelcome reminder of the conflict looming over our heads. Hesitantly, I approached it, my heart racing with an instinct that told me to leave it be. But curiosity drew me closer. Nothing about the messages scrolling across the screen seemed innocuous. They were reminders. Reminders of appointments I couldn't discern, but what caught my eye was the notification labeled Anniversary Reminder, Call Tanya. The name sent a jolt through my system. Tanya. My mother had mentioned a new colleague, but my father had never allowed any of those conversations to linger long enough for me to really understand. A concern dripped into my consciousness, a shadow looming larger than before. You okay? Mara's voice startled me. I quickly turned away from the phone, shoving it back like it was a forbidden object. What's wrong? Nothing, I replied too quickly, avoiding her bright gaze. Just, thinking about dinner, I said, forcing a smile. But as I started chopping the vegetables, each slice echoed with unspoken dread. A flicker of guilt washed over me. I felt guilty for dissecting my father's life like this, as if it were a puzzle waiting to be solved. Yet my heart insisted that every piece mattered, that understanding the rift between him and my mother could save the beautiful tapestry of our family. Minutes passed, filled with the sounds of bubbling pots and sizzling pan-fried onions. I was fixated, trying to drown out my thoughts, wishing for a clearer path. Perhaps if I focused on the task, cleared the fog, I could summon the courage needed to address the storm brewing inside our home. Let us make cupcakes. Mara's exuberant shout pulled me from my thoughts. A silent guffaw escaped me. It was ridiculous and heartwarming. But maybe, just maybe, baking would provide a shift in the atmosphere. Okay. Frosting by the buckets for Mom? I replied, animated by her suggestion. Yet as we giggled and stirred, the door creaked open, and my gaze shot toward it. Dad stepped through with an unfamiliar tension etched across his features, lines deeper than before, almost anguished. Dad! Mara grinned, abandoning her flour-covered hands to rush toward him. We're going to bake cupcakes for Mom. He forced a smile, but his eyes betrayed a lingering shadow. That sounds great, sweetie, he managed, though I sensed something further clinging to him, pulling him back. I locked eyes with him, a silent question lingering. What was he not saying? In that moment a soft, smoldering wood beneath the surface of our fragile family, I felt a sense of impending dread. Everything was shifting, an impending storm far worse than the one I had anticipated. Where were you? I asked cautiously, my heart racing as anticipation sparked between us. But before he could answer, the phone buzzed again, this time shattering the moment as it slipped from where I had hastily placed it, landing heavily on the counter and vibrating like the tension building in the air. Mara's laughter faded as all eyes turned to the device. A sleek notification blinked back at me, the words writhing with foreboding, "Dinner with Tanya, don't forget," and with that, the world as I knew began to unravel around me. The sharpness of that message lingered in the air, a palpable rift forming between us as the silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Mara, oblivious to the undertow of tension, glanced at me and then back to Dad, her face twisted between confusion and concern. "What say, Tanya?" she asked, her innocence serving as a stark contrast to the heavy atmosphere that loomed out. I opened my mouth to argue, to demand answers, but the unsettling knot in my stomach held me back. Dad's gaze flitted away from me, landing anywhere but on his daughter, and in that moment, it dawned on me that this wasn't just a simple lapse in memory. Something significant loomed behind those messages, a painful truth hidden in the folds of our lives. "Mara, why don't you go and pick out a special plate for the cupcakes?" I suggested, my voice wavering slightly as I fought to keep my own devastation at bay. She needed comfort, not the crushing weight of this revelation. With a reluctant nod, she turned and disappeared into the hallway, leaving me alone with Dad. It only took a heartbeat for the tension to spiral, the air thickening like molasses between us. I clenched my fists to regain my composure, my heart pounding in my chest as I felt the urge to confront him. "Are you really going to just brush this off?" I finally said, my voice steady, though the tremors inside me belied my control. "You've been forgetting important things, Dad. It's like you've checked out." He sighed, the weight of the world settling on his shoulders as he leaned against the counter, the corners of his mouth twisting into a grimace. "You don't understand, it's complicated," he replied, his voice barely above a murmur. "Complicated?" I echoed, incredulity creeping into my tone. "More complicated than your family? More complicated than this?" I gestured wildly, frustration pouring out like boiling water as anger and betrayal tangled in my gut. "We're in this mess together. You can't just go off forgetting things and expecting us to act like everything's fine." As my words hung heavy in the air, he winced, as if each syllable pierced him. "I wish it were that simple," he said, a note of defeat lacing his words. "I've messed up, I know. But Tanya, she's someone you need to call on Mom's birthday?" I shot back, the sentence feeling like a hammer against glass. The spark in his eyes dimmed further, and for a moment, I feared what else he might say, what fragile thread of truth he might unveil. But the moment was interrupted by the soft patter of Mara approaching, a cascade of bright ceramic plates in her arms. "Look! Isn't this one pretty?" she chirped, blissfully unaware of the heartache unraveling around her. "Yes, sweetie, it's beautiful," Dad said, his tone shifting immediately to one of warmth, even as his gaze flickered uneasily back to me. I took a deep breath to steady myself, pressing the emotions down as I met his eyes, a silent battle waged between us. "We'll talk later," I finally said, the uncertainty twisting like a dull blade in my chest. Uncharacteristically amenable, Dad nodded, his expression unreadable. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was bubbling beneath the surface was an urgent storm waiting to break, an avalanche of turmoil threatening to tumble forth. As Mara and I immersed ourselves in baking, the sweet smell of vanilla and chocolate filled the air, mingled with laughter and light-hearted banter. Yet, even in those moments, I could see Dad in the corner of my eye, lost in thought. Each time I glanced his way, the struggles etched on his face mirrored the heaviness in my heart. After a while, I retrieved the tray of cupcakes from the oven, watching Mara's excitement as we began to frost them with colorful icing. "This will make Mom so happy," she said, her voice bright, but I could sense the uncertainty beneath her joy, the way she clung to the hope of a brighter moment amid the chaos that I wrestled with my thoughts as we decorated, trying to push aside the looming questions, forcing myself to focus on our small semblance of normalcy. Despite this, all I could think about was Tanya and the implications of that name. What kind of relationship existed between her and Dad? Would he leave us for her, or was this simply something even deeper, a wound we hadn't yet understood? We finished decorating just in time to hear the front door creak open again, a rush of tension coiling through me as I turned to see Mom enter, her face pale but hopeful upon greeting us. "What are you two up to?" "Surprise!" Mara shouted, her cheeks flushed with excitement, bouncing on her toes as she revealed the cupcakes. "We made these for you." Mom's expression softened, a smile breaking through the cloud that had occupied her features. "Oh, they look incredible! You both are so sweet." As she moved forward, embracing Mara, I could see the flicker of hope igniting in her eyes, a momentary crack in the veil of sadness that had enveloped her. It felt right, like a tiny victory in the midst of uncertainty, though my heart couldn't shake the underlying worry. "Do you want to try one?" Mara beamed, offering her the plate with the utmost pride. But just as Mom reached for the treat, something in the hallway caught my eye. A shadowed figure approached, casting an unexpected chill over the warm atmosphere. I turned, a sense of dread washing through me as my heart sank. It was a woman, not just any woman, but one whose presence struck deep within me, sending a jarring wave through my entire being. Her familiarity hung in the air like a ghost, a haunting specter from my father's secrets. The name echoed in my mind, Tanya, and just like that, the warmth of our moment shattered against the cold reality of everything left unsaid, threatening to drag us all back into the tempest I feared most. The tension in the room shifted sharply, like the sudden gust of wind that cools a hot summer day, only to be followed by the oppressive heat of an impending storm. Tanya stood in the doorway, her presence slicing through the sweetness of the moment we'd just created, the cupcakes icing a stark contrast to the chaos her arrival incited in my heart. For a heartbeat, the world slipped away. The laughter faded, the cupcakes lost their brilliance. All that existed was the woman in front of me. Her dark hair fell in waves down her back, and her eyes sparkled with a familiarity that was suffocating. I felt like I'd been caught in the crossfire of a battlefield, my heart racing as my mind spiraled into disbelief. "Dad," I croaked, the word wrapping around the weight of my fear. My voice trembled as I searched his face for answers. His expression was a mixture of shock and guilt, like a deer caught in the headlights, unable to move, unable to speak. Mara, blissfully unaware of the emotional landslide as she transitioned from excitement to confusion, looked between us. "Who is she?" she asked, tilting her head, her little fingers still clutching the plate of cupcakes. Dad stammered, and in that moment I felt the world around us hold its breath. "This is Tanya," he finally said, the name rolling off his tongue like a curse. The way he said it sent icy tendrils of fear spiraling through me. Mom froze, her smile falling like a castle made of sand at high tide. "Tanya?" It came out almost as a whisper, the disbelief wrapping around her. I felt the tension rise as her eyes darted from Dad to the stranger before us, trying to piece together this jigsaw puzzle that had suddenly become disjointed and chaos-filled. "Yes," Tanya replied, her voice smooth and poised, creating an unsettling contrast to the heartbreak etched into our family's fabric. "I'm here to see David." The way she delivered those words held a sharp edge. There was no mistaking the familiarity woven into her tone. "See David?" Mara repeated, her innocence hanging in the air like the sweet smell of cupcakes. Childlike confusion intermingled with the more sobering reality of what was happening, an echo of the innocence slowly shattering around us. "Dad, what is going on?" My voice strained, a quivering plea mingled with anger. The cupcakes melted away in my mind, lost to my rising fury, a dam threatening to break. "You were going to tell us, weren't you? Was this part of the plan?" His silence felt deafening, thickening the air around us, and I could sense the cracks widening further, exposing the raw wounds beneath. I turned, the weight of betrayal crashing over me like an overwhelming tide. You promised we'd talk later. I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, battling against the slicing chill of reality. I didn't know she was coming, I swear. The desperation in his voice was almost palpable, but it did little to stabilize the turmoil spiraling within me. Tanya stepped closer, her eyes darting to Mom, her presence igniting a firestorm of buried emotions. I think it's best if we all sit down and talk. She spoke, though it felt laden with a false sense of calm. I felt my stomach turn at her words, as if she wanted to play peacemaker in a war zone, unaware of the devastation around her. Talk? Mom echoed, her voice strained as she stood stiffly before her, arms crossed protectively over her heart. What is there to talk about? The hurt in her words was unmistakable, a shattering glass buried deep in her spirit. Mara shifted nervously between us, eyes darting back and forth. I send tea at a party? Can't we have cake first? Her innocent plea nodded further into the already tangled atmosphere, highlighting how the burden of our family's unresolved past hung like a shroud over this fragile moment. There's nothing to celebrate, I snapped, my voice colder than I'd intended. Anger bubbled up, fueled by that unsettling sense of betrayal, and in that moment, I no longer recognized the people I'd called family. I could see it on Dad's face, that same look of confusion mirrored in mine, a reflection of the turmoil. Beneath our skinned out, I narrowed my gaze at Tanya, who stood as a gatekeeper between my family and the chaos looming ahead. Why are you here? I demanded, needing to surface from this sea of confusion. What do you want with him? Mara looked up at me. Sister? She asked softly, and in my heart, I felt the cracks deepening. The title sat uncomfortably in my chest, a reminder of everything we were losing. Tanya's gaze softened, but her demeanor remained unyielding, as if she was prepared for a battle to protect whatever connection she had with Dad. I think it's time David explained everything, she responded, her voice steady, yet edged with the underlying tension of confrontation. Mom took a hesitant step forward, her resolve wavering. Explain what exactly? Why you with our daughter here? She gestured towards Mara, whose innocence acted as a painful foil against the shifting allegiances in the room. This is not what I expected for my birthday. Amidst the chaos, a soft resolve weaved through me, a quiet strength igniting amid the storm. Maybe we need to hear what she has to say, but let us do it together. Despite the swirling confusion, there was something about Tanya's presence that suggested she held pieces to a puzzle we didn't yet understand. We deserve to know the truth, regardless of how painful it is. Dad looked at me, a flicker of gratitude and fear crossing his face. Perhaps he sensed that this moment might tip the balance of our fractured bond. A storm brewed silently in the depths of both my parents' eyes, one they were perhaps too afraid to share with me. And just when I thought I could brace myself, the doorbell rang, the sound echoing through the house like an omen, sending an electric wave of anxiety crashing through me. As I turned to see who had come knocking, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Tanya's eyes widened, and for a fleeting second, the vulnerability of her expression caught me off guard. It was as if she knew something we didn't, a connection to another reality, another truth we had yet to confront. Who is it? My heart raced, a sobering third strike to the already volatile moment. Before anyone could answer, the door swung open to unveil a figure that left me breathless, a young woman, uncertain yet filled with a fierce sense of determination. In case anyone needs a reminder, she spoke, her voice shaking with a blend of defiance and vulnerability. I'm here for my father. Everything shifted, and in that instant, I realized that nothing would ever be the same. The weight of our hidden truths crashed down upon us, threatening to engulf us all as the storm we desperately tried to avert raged onward, drawing us into the heart of chaos. The room buzzed with an energy that felt almost electric, yet charged with confusion and an ever-growing sense of dread, each heartbeat echoing with unanswered questions. I braced myself, shaking off the unexpected shockwave that ripped through me at the sight of the newcomer. Tanya's intentions still hung in the air like thick fog, but now the atmosphere had shifted again with the arrival of this new woman. I could hardly register her face, her identity a mere whisper in the cacophony of emotions threatening to swallow us whole. My gaze snapped between Tanya and the newcomer, trying to understand what lay beneath their surfaces. Could this stranger from the same mold of uncertainty be a sibling? The resemblance was faint, yet undeniable in the way her posture mirrored my own, the defiance in her voice ringing familiar even amidst the chaos. My heart lurched at the thought. Was my world unraveling at the seams right before my eyes? Your father? The new woman repeated, her eyes darting past me to settle on Dad. My dad, always my rock, now appeared to be a skeleton of the man I had once thought I knew. David Miller? She pressed, a steely resolve hardening her features as if she could summon the strength needed to confront a mythical creature from fairy tales. Who are you? Dad finally managed, his voice cracking like old paint. The space felt tenuous, the tension stretching thin as we all awaited some revelation that could slice through the uncertainty. A blank canvas lay ahead of us, yet I felt the weight of the past simmering just below the surface, threatening to paint it with a darkness we couldn't yet comprehend. Answer her, I demanded, feeling the frustration building while my voice attempted to weave through the layers of anguish draped on our fragile gathering. On this day meant to commemorate love, togetherness, and family, we stood on the precipice of our greatest upheaval. Leave her be, Tanya interjected, stepping forward, her protective stance revealing layers of complexity. This isn't the time to isn't it? The newcomer shot back, fire igniting in her words. You barged in with secrets, and now you want to silence truths? You don't know how long I've waited to connect the dots. A painful knot twisted in my stomach, realization dawning with every word. The conflicting emotions throbbing around the room began to blend into something unbearable. I felt as though I was wrestling with unwelcome knowledge from a story I never wanted to be a part of. My own insecurities bubbled once again, memories of Dad's late-night phone calls that inevitably ended in hushed tones, fatherly advice whispered from a distance. Mara, blissfully unaware of the adult tensions swirling around her, squeezed my hand. What's going on? Is she our sister too? Her innocent voice filtered through the maelstrom, drawing every gaze toward her bright-eyed inquiry, a light peering through the oppressive darkness. The word escaped my lips, but I choked it back. Was it even my place to answer? The reality felt too raw, layered with implications that hadn't been fully explored. My heart thudded wildly, threatening to spill out truths I was not prepared to share. Don't you dare involve her in this, Tanya shot back, her fierce protectiveness underscoring the fear threading through her tone. This is between us, about our past. Us? The newcomer replied incredulously, but not before shooting a desperate look at Dad, as if seeking a lifeline anchored in the father she knew, a man struggling between the shadows of his previous life and the family standing before him. You were supposed to tell me, Dad. Her eyes glazed over a moment, a flicker of hurt eclipsing her resolve, before she gathered herself, fighting through waves of emotion. That moment of vulnerability tugged at my heart. I could almost taste the longing for connection on her lips. Something deep within me screamed to defend her claim on my father, yet fear gripped me tight, warding off that instinct. Look, I began, attempting to grasp any sense of control over our spiraling ordeal. If we're going to get through this, we need to stay calm. Maybe we need to hear what she has to say. I felt my heart racing, the pressure building in my chest as memories of cupcakes and birthday celebrations, everything I thought I knew, began to dissolve. I just want to talk. I deserve answers, the newcomer said, her bravado momentarily faltering. All I know is that you are my father. I need to understand, oh sweet Jesus, Mom muttered under her breath, dread creeping back into her features as she instinctively shielded Mara behind her. This isn't how it's supposed to be. I stole a glance at Dad. A storm raged in his hazel eyes, the realization of lives intertwined, of deeply buried secrets clawing their way to the surface. This is all my fault, he whispered finally, his voice hoarse as he grappled with the weight of unspoken truths. I never wanted it to come to this. Of course you didn't, Tanya retorted, her composure slipping as frustration simmered under the surface. But now we have to face it, together. You created this mess, David, and we're the ones stuck in it. Silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating, as we stood on the precipice of something monumental. I remained lost in the chaos of my mind, trying to untangle how love and grief converged, demanding acknowledgement from all of us. Then a soft voice broke through. It was Mara again. "Can we have cupcakes now?" Her wide eyes glistened amid tears threatening to spill, a poignant reminder that innocence still flickered brightly. She was the last piece of purity amidst our fractured family. Emotions swept through me with relentless speed. My heart seemed to fracture anew, as I felt both protective and resentful of the responsibilities resting on little shoulders, the responsibility to shield her from our adult messes. Before anyone responded, the door chime rang once more, an insistent reminder that we weren't alone, that there were still pieces of our lives left unexplored. "Another?" I whispered, feeling a well of anxiety rise within me, only to release with a heavy sigh when I saw the image standing at the threshold, an older woman, sharply dressed, holding a large envelope. "Excuse me," she said, catching everyone's attention. "Is this the residence of David Miller? I have something important to deliver. It concerns today." And in that moment, I knew whatever lay within that envelope held the potential to change everything, pushing us deeper into the storm of chaos we'd been desperately trying to navigate. The air thickened with uncertainty as the newcomer's presence expanded into our already tumultuous gathering. I could feel the anxiety radiating from everyone: Mom's narrowed eyes, Tanya's clenched fists, Dad's pale complexion. It was as if we were caught in a web spun from despair, sadness, and anger, and each word spoken threatened to tighten its grip. "Is this even real?" I whispered, my chest tightening at the absurdity of the situation. My mind swirled in disbelief, grappling with the repercussions of what lay ahead. Was it really true that I had a sister? There had always been whispers of extended family, gaps in Dad's recollections, but nothing had prepared me for this jarring confrontation. The older woman at the door stepped forward, bringing with her an unexpected aura of authority. "Please," she said calmly, her voice laced with urgency as her gaze swept over the assembled family. "This cannot wait. I have crucial information regarding the Miller family secrets that may unravel everything." With a flick of her wrist, she revealed the envelope, thick and carefully sealed, a promise and a threat all at once. My heart raced. A space almost tangible unfolded in front of me, where possibilities melded with fears. I felt my throat constrict, forcing me to swallow hard. After what we'd just faced, could more revelations possibly challenge our already frayed ties? "Mom, do you know her?" I turned, hoping for some clarity, but her face was a mask of increasing dread. "No," she whispered, almost to herself. "I don't know who she is or what she wants." The older woman cleared her throat and introduced herself. "My name is Angela. I worked closely with your father many years ago, and I'm here because there are arrangements that were made, ones that could unravel the tapestry of your family history." "More secrets?" Tanya interrupted, her voice shaking as she took a step closer to me, protective and fierce. "We've had enough of those." "Not all secrets are bad," Angela replied firmly, locking eyes with Tanya as if willing her to see the truth hidden beneath the layers of discomfort. "These are truths that need to be shared, truths that can offer closure, or at the very least, clarity." Dad's gaze wavered, as if torn between fleeing and confronting whatever ghosts loomed in the shadows of our family's past. "I can't," he stammered, but then looked back at us, at the gathering of hearts in turmoil. "You all deserve to know. But this is not just about me, it's about everything." Every tangled thread of our shared history pulled taut, and the tension intermingled with a flicker of hope. "Are you saying all of us deserve to hear whatever is in that envelope?" I asked tentatively, trying to piece together a semblance of resolution amidst the chaos. "Yes," Angela replied. "The burden of these truths has been carried for too long. I owe it to you, to all of you, to unveil what lies beneath." Her tone softened, as if fragile with shared anguish. What could possibly be significant enough to disrupt our lives further? Tanya questioned, yet beneath her skepticism lay a flicker of vulnerability, a yearning for something that could potentially amend our shattered notions of family. "I wouldn't be here if it weren't important, if it weren't to bring some light to your reality." Angela took a step closer to Dad, and I noted how he shrank back slightly, as though the weight of their shared history bore down on him. Your father's past has a way of coming back, and it doesn't he give quarter when included lives, especially those of children, are in the balance. Mara tugged at my sleeve, her small presence a balm amidst the storm. Can we trust her? She asked, innocent and genuine. I knelt down to her level, forcing a gentle smile. I don't know right now, honey. But whatever happens, we'll face it together. I turned my attention back to the envelope, every second of our heavy stillness echoing the unanswered questions pulsating between us. Would it reveal connections we never fathomed? Would the mysteries veiled within your father's past redefine the love we held for each other? Just open it, I blurted. We need to know. All eyes converged on Dad, a collective breath held in anticipation. With trembling hands, he reached for the envelope, hesitating for a split second as if deciphering the weight of the moment. I could see the conflict raging behind his eyes, a wish and a dread intermingling in the storm of confusion. As he finally broke the seal, anticipation fractured the air, and I felt my heart race. But before he could divulge whatever lay within, the unforeseen happened. A loud crash echoed from outside, shaking the foundation of our moment. Our heads spun toward the window just in time to see a barrage of lights and chaos flooding the street, sirens slicing through the haze of our emotional tempest. Someone was shouting, voices rose in alarm. Without warning, a figure dashed past our house, breathless and frantic, a silhouette entwined in shadow, glancing back at something chasing it in hot pursuit. The moment hung in the air, charged with every heartbeat, as I felt something shatter inside me, the ruin of normalcy I had clung to fracturing into chaos. What is happening? I looked back at Dad, whose face was drained of color, as fear and understanding coalesced in his eyes. Something worse than just a family secret, he whispered back, a chill settling in my bones. I knew then that whatever revelations lay within the envelope, their meaning had shifted again, submerged beneath the surface of unknown danger lurking just outside our door. The instant the sirens wailed outside, an unsettling vibration coursed through our gathering, choking the air with a mixed scent of fear and confusion. I exchanged glances with Mom, who stood frozen, her brow furrowed. She seemed lost in an abyss of thoughts where the present met the shadows of what could have been memories and realities colliding in a most unwelcome way. Stay inside, Dad warned, his voice sharp and commanding. But there was an undercurrent of panic lacing his tone, something deeper than the mere urgency of protecting us from lurking dangers. What do we do? Tanya's voice quivered, betraying the fierce shield she often tried to project. Her fingers intertwined tightly, knuckles white. Dad, what's going on out there? Dad opened his mouth as if to answer, but a loud crash interrupted him, and I could see the fear wash over him like a tidal wave, pulling him under. He turned his focus back to the envelope, our family history condensed into paper that felt heavy with the weight of untold stories. There was something about his urgency now, a sense that this was a moment he'd been preparing for, a confrontation he had thought he could avoid, until now. Angela stepped closer to him, her expression shifting to one of concern. You need to tell them, Frank. They deserve to know. Her eyes, wide and earnest, seemed to pierce through the whirlwind of commotion outside, and yet my attention was caught by the flurry beyond our windows. Shadows darted full of weight and speed. Everyone's eyes locked away from our gathering, caught in the storm of uncertainty and the vibrant chaos outside. The world had slipped into a reality far grimmer than the secrets of our family. Mara clung to me, her small hand trembling. I don't like this, she whispered, looking up at me with those innocent, trusting eyes that pierced through my own heart. Me either, but we'll be okay. I promise, I said softly, my words laced with a firm resolve that I didn't quite believe myself. The fear swirling in my chest was one I had never encountered before, a twisting knot that threatened to suffocate. In times of chaos, I had always believed I could navigate the storm, but today, it felt like stepping into unknown waters. Dad seemed to wrestle with his thoughts, eyes darting between the envelope and the cacophony that resonated from outside. I thought I could keep you safe, he muttered, almost to himself, as if the weight of our shared history, of the envelope in his hands, had become unbearable. What are you talking about? Tanya pressed, her voice rising in a mix of fear and frustration. What does this have to do with us? Everything, Angela interrupted. You might think of secrets as walls, but sometimes they are bridges to understanding who we truly are. But what does that even mean? I snapped, the tremors of fear feeding into my frustration. If it's not bad enough to face the secrets already buried, now we have everything happening outside? Dad, we need you to be here now more than ever? The moment stretched, rife with tension, when Angela stepped closer, grounding her voice. There are forces outside these walls that may seek to exploit what you don't yet understand about your family. Knowing the truth could be your greatest shield. And not knowing could be our downfall, Dad added soberly, his gaze no longer just resting on the envelope but on each of us. His weighty admission hung like an anchor, ready to drag us all into deeper waters. In that moment of shared dread, I thought again of Mara, who peeked at me with yearning trust, as if I alone could piece together every aspect of our bruised reality. We have to stay together, I stressed, wrapping my arm around her. No matter what happens out there, no matter what truth unfolds in here. A sharp crack splintered through the room as the sound of glass shattering echoed, pulling us back into stark reality. Panic surged in our chests, and it flickered like a flame catching the edges of paper, threatening to consume everything. I need to get the police. They'll know what to do, Tanya stammered, her eyes darting to the door before she took a step towards it. No! Dad forbade, his face a mask of urgency and fear, another layer of their reality unveiled. You can't go outside. Not until we know what we're dealing with. Before Tanya could retort, I heard voices gathering momentum from the street. A woman screamed, then a man shouted for someone named Ben. A name that slithered through my mind like a serpent, triggering deep-rooted memories. Ben, I mumbled, drawing the attention of the group. There was an uncle, Mom's brother. But my words trailed off. Is this about him? Dad's expression darkened further, and for an unbearable moment, the world twisted into a blur. Enough. We can't discuss this now. There are more important things at stake. But the thrum of familial ties resonated within me, the deeper understanding that perhaps there were connections hidden in the shadows, waiting to be brought to light. And with that realization, the urgency became palpable, gripping me by the throat. Dad, if that's the case, we should find out what we're up against. Together. And before he could answer, a loud crash sent splinters dancing across the floor, illuminating a way beyond the door, a path but uncertain, the weight of our collective history pressing down like a storm cloud ready to explode. Just then, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. The screen flickered to life, and my heart stammered in disbelief. A message. Help. They're coming. You need to know the truth before it's too late. The signature was unmistakable and rattled me to my core. Ben. As the tremor of my father's voice faded into silence, my heart raced. The weight of Ben's message pressed against my chest, a reminder that our past was intertwined with the chaos outside. The urgency in the words felt like an unspoken alarm, and suddenly, being together in that room wasn't enough. I was desperate to act, to unearth the secrets that threatened to drag us under. Dad, we need to talk. About Ben, I said, my voice softer now, more pleading than accusatory. His eyes flickered with something unrecognizable, as if I had named a dragon waiting to be unleashed. You don't know what you're asking for. Tanya crossed her arms, frustration bubbling as the fear they all shared wrestled with their unwillingness to dive deeper into our tangled history. But we have to know. We can't just sit here while something terrible is happening outside, especially not when it could be connected to our family. We need to stay calm, Dad said firmly, but it was already too late. The room hummed with tension, each of us grappling with unspoken fears and ghosts that had lingered in our home far longer than any of us had realized. Mara, still curled beside me, looked up with wide eyes shimmering with both trust and confusion. Is Uncle Ben okay? Is that why he is coming? Her innocence cut through the rising storm of adult fears, forcing us to confront the complicated web of our family ties. I didn't have an answer, not for her or for myself. Instead, I reached out to squeeze her tiny hand, the gesture providing me comfort more than her. Amid the chaos, her small presence reminded me of innocence untouched by the burdens I now bore. What do we know about him, Dad? I pressed again. If he is coming, if he is connected somehow, we need to prepare. My heart raced as I turned the truth over in my mind, piecing together the fragments of our family that felt fragile at best. A moment of indecision veiled my father's features, but it passed as he slowly delivered a heavy sigh. Ben he hesitated. He was a troubled man, caught in darkness long before you could remember. It's not a story I'm proud of. But if he is coming back, what happens if he has enemies? I interrupted, the thrill of insight sliding toward a chilling reality. What if that's why everything is happening outside? What if he is in danger, or worse, leading danger towards us? Please don't feed into fear, he said firmly, though his voice cracked slightly. We need to make a decision, not from fear but from clarity. And clarity felt like an illusion, flickering against the encroaching reality of danger beyond our walls. As if to echo our indecision, another crash emanated from outside, a shatter so profound it felt like it could topple more than just glass. The world was inexorably tugging us toward it. Another tense silence fell, unsettling and thick. Then, a sound flickered through the restlessness, a small knock at the door. The echo reverberated, layered with hesitance. This shift in atmosphere seemed to pull the breath out of my lungs. What if it's him? What if he is here? I felt the unease gnawing at my gut. Everyone, stay quiet. Dad motioned, his voice a harsh whisper cutting through the chaos. Mara clung to me tightly, her warmth grounding me amid dread, while my heart raced with the thoughts of Ben and the unknown tensions lurking just beyond our door. A muffled voice broke through. Please help. You've got to let me in. Who is it? Dad called out, his tension mirroring ours. It's Kelly. Please, I'm running from there, coming for me. I don't know what to do. The name caused the guilt to claw at my heart. Kelly, a childhood friend of Ben. A name I hadn't thought of in years, a connection buried under layers of neglect. Did you hear that? I turned to Dad, the gravity of the moment suddenly shifting expectation. We can't just ignore her. She could be in trouble. The decision hung like a precipice over us. Each of us felt it, the weight of uncertainty colliding with the kindling flame of potential rescue, a brief beacon amid the encroaching shadows. Dad chewed his lip, wrestling with his instincts to protect us. What if it's a trap? Or what if we could save someone? Tanya interjected, glaring at him, a fierceness blossoming from her worry. In that instant, we all stood together, caught between fear and the flickering flicker of hope. The walls pressed close, the outside world a chaotic thunderstorm of danger and secrets lurking just at the fringes. Let her in, I implored. We can't shut off the world just because we're scared. I can't. I caught sight of Mara again, her small hand gripped tightly around mine. I can't let fear dictate our fate. We need to know what we're up against. As if in response to my words, another crash erupted beyond the door. This time, it felt personal, a warning, a call to action. All at once, time seemed suspended in a sharp, agonizingly delicious tense moment where everything stood still, teetering on the knife's edge of choice. But as the winds howled outside, it quickly became clear that the tempest didn't care about our indecision. As the door rattled again, urgency drumming through the house. Open it! In the span of a heartbeat our fates sealed, the door flung open, and the world welcomed us with chaos streaming through like a rogue wave crashing through our small haven. All I could register was a flash of terrified green eyes darting in. Get back! Kelly screamed, arms outstretched as forces unbeknownst to us charged the threshold. And there, in the heartbeat of chaos, I knew we were changing forever. As the door flew open, the gust of chaos poured into the warmth of our home, dragging with it the shadows of our unspoken truths and pain. Kelly, wide-eyed and frantic, stumbled inside, her voice a desperate plea against the tumult echoing just outside. Please hurry! I barely had time to react before a chorus of footsteps thundered outside, the sound grating against the quickening rhythm of my heart. Dad's face paled under the severity of the situation, and I could see his resolve crumbling as the memories of a past he'd buried clawed their way to the surface. Mara huddled against me, innocence juxtaposed against the frenetic fear overtaking our home. "What is happening, sissy?" She looked up at me, her voice trembling. "Will it be okay?" I squeezed her hand, trying to anchor both of us against the rising tide of uncertainty. "I don't know, but we are together, and that matters," I whispered, fighting the relentless swell of fear. But even as I spoke those words, a burgeoning terror swept through me. The world outside was volatile, and our sanctuary was no longer safe. "We need to close it," Tanya urged, glancing toward the door as though it were an angry beast waiting to be unleashed. But Kelly pushed herself deeper into our space, eyes darting around as if searching for an escape route in a room that suddenly felt too small. "You don't understand. They're coming for me. We have to hide." "Who's coming?" I asked, needing to piece together the fragments of this unfolding chaos. Before she could respond, another figure skidded to a stop at the door, its shadow stretching long against the wall, the frantic breaths punctuating the air. There was Ben, his face ghostly and taut, as if he'd run straight out of a waking nightmare, but his arrival only added a new layer of confusion to the already tangled web. "Get inside!" he shouted, panic rippling through his thick voice that I felt my heart tumble, unsteady at the wave of familiarity blooming from him, a thread connecting our chaos. But it was overshadowed by the sense of impending danger that narrowed my focus. What was happening? Why was Ben here, and why was Kelly afraid? I turned to Dad, whose face contorted with myriad emotions. Betrayal and fear lurked in his eyes, eclipsed by familiar guilt. "They're after her, whoever they are. You need to understand, Ben, something's off," he murmured, the gravity of his words pulling us deeper into this impending storm. "Dad, we don't have a choice," I said, my voice steadying against the swells of fear crashing in. "Whatever it is, we must face it together." "Together," Ben repeated, resting a hand against the doorframe as Asher walked through the threshold. And suddenly, the room felt unmoored as we confronted the reality that each of us brought a piece of our past that could lock us into an inescapable fate. Just as the door began to creak shut, the cacophony surged outside, and I felt a rush of conflicting emotions: fear, anger, but most forcefully an urge to protect my family. "Are they coming for you, or for us?" I looked at Kelly, whose face shimmered under the weight of unspoken truths. "Both," she gasped. "They've uncovered everything. Secrets don't remain buried forever." The power of her words peeled back the layers, revealing truths that had lingered on the edge of our lives, edges too delicate to touch, too raw to name. The room held its breath, taut and suffocating as Tara took a step closer to her. "Maybe we need to open the envelope," she suggested quietly, glancing back at Dad. "Help Ben recall what he knows." The tension hung in the air, shaking loose the remnants of our reality, as we shifted underneath the weight of possibility. Dad hesitated, eyes darting around the room before resting on the letter still crumpled in his hands. "This is not just about you, or me," he murmured, guilt swirling in his tone. "But about everything we let it destroy." "Yes, right," Ben said, taking a deep breath. "We don't have the luxury of time anymore." He looked at Kelly, his voice softening. "The secrets that haunt our families, they become weapons if we don't wrestle them." From the shadows. Holding my breath, I stepped forward, determination igniting within. "Then let us dive into those shadows. Together." Mara clung tighter against my side, her innocent heart unwavering even amidst the storm. Can't we just have the cupcakes first?" A warm wave of laughter rippled through the tension, a small light igniting against the creeping darkness. Kelly smiled briefly, but it faded as she exchanged glances with Ben. She gestured toward the door. "You might need them to fight this fight." The urgency pulsated against the walls, and Dad nodded, stepping forward to finally unveil the truths hidden within the envelope. "Okay," he said, voice steady as he took a deep breath. "We will meet whatever lies ahead head-on." I felt a collective resolve, the weight of our shared destinies urging us toward the unknown, the chaos outside morphing into the backdrop of something transformative, something requiring us to reclaim our truths. With fingers trembling, Dad tore open the envelope, each moment stretching like a taut string, waiting for release. The air shivered as we all leaned in, every heartbeat racing against the ticking clock, every breath a shared prayer. As the paper unfolded, the room descended into a deep hush, quiet and reverent. "Truths can't remain buried," he murmured, and in that breath, we sensed a shift. Lurking somewhere in the depths of our combined history lay not only the fear we felt but also the potential for healing. Together, as a fragmented but unyielding family, we would face whatever walked through that door. "Let us find that strength," I whispered to Mara, "and take control." And right then, among the shadows and uncertainties, we stood on the brink of rediscovery, love glowing like embers waiting for a spark. I finally understood, in seasons of turmoil, truth is potent. It doesn't just free us, it ignites transformation. The moment hung around us like a suggestive promise, and I could feel it, a dawning resolve worth fighting for. "Whatever is out there, they'll find us together," I declared, embodying the spirit of unyielding strength. "The shadows may have threatened us, but here, in this moment of reckoning, we held the power to choose our path. They would not break us. The fire of our love would blaze,